Welcome to the Safety Culture Onboarding Series. In this video, we'll cover the analytics feature, including the different ways to get started with dashboards, and options available so you can customize them your way. We think it's important that we give our customers a range of options and allow them to find the solution that fits them. Often it does come down to size and resources. Large organizations will often want to pump data out into a tool like Power BI or into a data lake, and that's great. But not every company has the resources or requirements to necessitate something like that, which is why it's important that we have a simple to use analytics tool in the platform. Even if a company does have a data team who are creating dashboards and manipulating data, that doesn't mean everyone has access to it. So striking a balance is often what's best for the whole organization. Safety Culture Analytics allows us to democratize that data, which is important in creating an efficient organization. By using the right permissions and group structure, people can create dashboards and get insight only from the data that's available to them. All of the data you collect in Safety Culture is brought together in Safety Culture Analytics. You can create customizable dashboards, enabling you to make sense of your data to identify improvement opportunities and isolate trends. You can review flagged items, inspection score trends, and much more. Another thing to note is that analytics is in near real time, allowing you to visualize data with minimal latency. You can also share dashboards, for example, to connect with executives who don't interact with Safety Culture a lot. When setting up analytics, think about what data you want to surface and for which people in your business. This can help you decide what dashboards you need to create. Let's jump into the platform and have a look at the analytics in action. Let's click on Analytics in the bottom left, and we'll start to create a dashboard. Once we start to create a dashboard, we'll see three different options here. First is individual-based, which would just be dashboards based off data you've actually created. The next is site-based, which would have data from your sites that you're associated with. And the third there is custom, which we'll look at today, is creating a dashboard based off all data in your organization. So go ahead and click custom here. We could start from scratch, but let's use a pre-built dashboard template. Today, we'll look at inspections and actions, but these are other options we could use as well. So now that we're in the dashboard, we could start to edit it. At the top here, quickly, we could update the title name if we wanted to here. And the next thing we can look at are our dashboard defaults. If we wanted to change the time frame we're looking at, we could do that. We could also change the frequency, so going from something like daily to weekly. And we can also change what sites and groups we're looking at for the data here. So now let's dive into this first tile here. Looking at the inspections by owner, let's add a filter and only look at the status bar here. For the sake of this example, let's look at inspections that have been completed by owner. We'll toggle that on and go ahead and click done. We see that update on the fly, and now we see 7 inspections have been completed, a few by Luke and a few by Ben. The next thing we'll look at is on this inspections by template over site. We'll click the wrench and start to dive into a bit more about the actual settings of this dashboard. As we dive in, we can start to look at what type of data we want to report on. So as we can see here, we're looking at inspections, but we could also look at things like actions, issues, or things that are scheduled. From a metrics perspective, we're looking at the inspections count here, but we could have a graph and chart on things like average score, flag percent rate, or the response count itself. We can also adjust the attributes. So instead of looking at the site, we could look at things like state or country, all the way through last editor. We could add multiple layers of that attribute here. We can also add a filter if we want. So again, looking like we talked about in the last example, if we wanted to add a status of completed, we could update here as well. The next thing we can change is the chart type. So as we see now, we're in a stack chart. But say for the sake of our example, we wanted to look at something different. We could look at a bar chart, or we could even look at something like a group chart. Let's say this sounds good for what we're looking at. Then we can move down to the settings themselves. We could add a chart title if we wanted, but the next thing we'll cover is KPIs. With KPI tracking, this is a key way to give our team or our leaders real-time insights on how they're tracking against a set number. We know of a lot of warehouses that have live Safety Culture Analytics up on screens, so the teams can essentially see how they're performing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So with that, let's go configure a key KPI here. We'll just add this as baseline target for the week. And let's say the target value itself is actually 2. Go ahead and hit save, and we'll start to see that KPI number come across. And the last thing we'll look at here is customizing our data visibility. With these two options, just ways for you to toggle on and off things like zero values or hiding the total metrics above the chart. So now that we've got the chart saved, we can go ahead and hit save and go back to our dashboard itself. The next thing we'll look at is adding a chart. We'll go to the add chart here in the top right. We could add a custom chart or we could choose from a library. Let's choose the choose from library option here. And again, going back to how we started the dashboard, we can create things like inspections, actions, or looking at issues themselves. Let's go to inspections and create an inspection by status tab. So now that we've populated that, we see our inspection by status dashboard here as well. The next thing we'll do is configure what this looks like from a shaping perspective. Say this inspection by status dashboard maybe isn't the most imperative as we send this to our executive leaders. We'll move that down and we can configure this clicking the 6 dots in the top right hand corner. We think this is good for now, so let's go ahead and hit save. So now that we've created the dashboard, we can hit share. Let's go ahead and click share in the top right. And for the sake of this example, let's share this dashboard with our executive leadership team. We'll click executive leadership there. We'll go ahead and share that dashboard. Now we see below who that dashboard is available to and the type of access they have. So the last thing we'll talk about here is the share dashboard link. We could copy this link and share this via our internal communication tools, or we could add this to a heads up. So now that we've shared this dashboard out, we can go back to our Analytics tab and just see that it's there. As we see here, we see the inspections and actions template that I created, when it was last modified, and we can start to adjust the access, open it, and play around with the key configuration there. So as you've seen, Analytics is a great way to visualize your safety culture data and spot trends, allowing you to surface potential gaps that need to be addressed.